Yeah, right about 6 o'clock.
Recording is on.
Dale was having some kind of an audio problem, and so for that reason, he canceled it for tonight. Hi, Cheryl. So anyway, George and I didn't have to be on that, and we had to sit around and wait for this one till 8 o'clock for the excitement to begin. So I was just going to ask you guys to give kind of an update on what's going on. Larry, I was going to check with you. Anything new? I was going to ask you to make notes in Michael Huntington. I think you talked to him or emailed him a couple of times. Just make notes of that in the LMT if you could. And then if you're not able to reach him, why you can, it'll appear logical that since you couldn't reach him, you went ahead and, had to reject him.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I think I've tried twice and I haven't gotten a response. So I'll give him another shot to see, call him in the evening. I know he works during the day and I don't know what phone number I have for him. I suppose it's a cell. But,
okay.
I'll try an email as well.
Anything else going on in your region that we should be aware of?
Again, just I've got a meeting Wednesday with Scott, and I hope to get one a day or two later with Rich. And those are my two that are in Region 8 that are on their way right now to be district captains.
Okay.
And I don't know about Greg. Talked with him. He was at a lunch with me. I don't know. It's been 2 weeks now, I guess. And he was really not sure what house district he was in. So that was Michael Baugh or which is, I think, Region 7 maybe, or 8.
Yeah.
And he's ready to go as well.
Okay.
Ready to get on board.
I may ask Mike to get in touch with him too. So,
yeah,
okay.
So he's anxious to get started.
Yeah. Sounds good. Dale, how about you? You got anything going on up in your region that we should know about?
No, really the focus has kind of been getting everybody to, continue training and put everything into that COS action app. That's been, that's like, trying to get the horse to water and drink and push a rope and all that other kind of stuff people talk about. But, that's a little bit of a struggle, but it's a little bit coming along. I've got one DC that's in Alabama because they got a vacation home there, her and her husband, and so they're doing some work. And I've got another one with an 89-year-old mother that's, I think, suffering some kind of kidney failure or something, and she's been spending night and day with her mom. And then I've got John Donka with a daughter who's got post-COVID pneumonia, a blood clot in one lung, and apparently on maybe heading toward a transplant list. So they've had some pretty serious health concerns going on.
Yeah. Any common update from John? That's too bad. I saw that on the prayer list.
No, he hasn't really said a whole lot other than, we were putting out reminders because we've got our breakfast coming up this Saturday, and he said he wasn't going to be able to attend. And I'd reached out to him a couple of times and he hadn't returned calls, and he just hit me back and he said, well, this is what's going on. And I've been kind of preoccupied. So.
Okay. All right.
Can I ask you a question, Dale?
Sure.
You said Saturday. Did you decide amongst yourselves that Saturday was a better day to do a luncheon like that rather than a weekday?
Yes. Yeah, that was kind of the consensus of the group that Saturday morning would be best.
Okay.
We've got a few people. John Domka still works. Cindy Yergi still works. George Manning still working. So. Yeah,
Okay.
Saturday, we just kind of, ask for comments or whatever, and that's kind of what it came to.
Do you guys meet for breakfast, Dale, or lunch? I should know
Breakfast.
that. Breakfast. Okay.
Breakfast. It's 9 a.m. the first Saturday of each month.
Okay. All right. Someday, if the I might get back up that way sometime too. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Now this time I put out a text blast to, I don't know, 100 and some people or whatever that were on the volunteer list, and invited them as well. And then some friends of mine, just social people and stuff. So I never really know. I mean, people don't RSVP. And so you show up there at 9 o'clock, you never know if you're going to have 3 people or 15 or 20,
Okay.
So.
If people do show up, or I'm just thinking out loud that we're getting to the time of the year where the weather's warming up, might be a good time to think about planning block walking. And if people are there, think about, hey, let's pick a day. And I don't know if you guys watched the training video for block walking or not.
Yeah, we've been talking about that, but the weather's been dicey enough. We haven't really picked a day we thought we could plan on.
Yeah.
What's your venue for this breakfast?
It's just a good sized restaurant. It's called Jedi's Garden Family Restaurant. It's they've got quite a large seating area, and they do have like a private room that'll hold probably 20, 25 people if you need it.
And you can reserve that?
You can reserve it, but we don't do reservations. We just show up and let them. To me, it's just like if a bus were to show up and pull into the parking lot with a bunch of people on a school trip or something, they're not going to turn you away.
Yeah.
And so, we don't make reservations because we can't guarantee a number. We tried that in the beginning, and they want to know how many are coming. And, from week to week, you just can't tell. People are just, there's too much going on. So, yeah, we just make the invitation open, and whoever shows up, we deal with it and go find a seat. And they're pretty good to move tables around if we need it or whatever. So it's been working out fine.
Yeah, Larry, the place where Vicki Mooring holds her meetings is like a diner place, and they've got it's not really a back room, but it's a place that's sort of separate. And we usually just get a big table back there in that area. There are often other people in the same area, but as long as they're in another large group or something, it doesn't really create a problem. It's nice to be in a little bit of a separate area. That way there's a wall on one side and just some possible table on the other side. But yeah, I think if you have a meeting like that and a bunch of people show up, they'll find a way to seat you.
Yeah, this is the third place that we've tried, so this one's worked out better than any of the others. It's also bigger than any of the others.
Vicki has her meeting at like 10 o'clock, and so it's kind of a brunch type thing almost. But that way, it's not a really large restaurant, but there's usually room to get a lot of people together. At 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock, it might be too crowded to get a big table, but at that 10 o'clock, it works pretty easily. So, any other questions for Dale? If not, I'm going to move on to Thomas and see what's going on down in your regions, your multiple regions that you oversee. You're muted, Thomas.
What? Okay. Is that okay now?
Now we can hear you.
Okay. First of all, for this region, we, of course, as you know, that we brought on a new DC just, I guess, last week. And he was in DC 455. We're also going to hold a small, very small meeting on Saturday for Susan and one of her, Mr. Whittaker, never mind.
Oh, him.
And yeah, we're going to trying to discuss whether to first we try to get the Victory Range there north of 70, but at $70 an hour, it was too much, and they wouldn't let them put handouts, so people can just pick up off the wall. So I told her to find someplace else. Well, she went with this same guy that she sent up to the Victory Range, and came back and said, "Yeah, how about the Wilbur Wright Museum? They're just north of Melville." Yep. Well, yeah. Well, we haven't talked about that yet because it's got $100 charge on it.
Oh, wow.
Is that like a security deposit, or that's a fee?
That's just for the community room.
Oh.
You know what? You might check with like your library, or if you got a YMCA or something, see if they have.
Now, this is my regional convent coordinator.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's doing this. And this is what I told her. I said, get something that's free. Free is the name of the game right now.
Yeah.
So,
What about your library where I met you, I don't know, last year sometime?
well, but that too. But we have, besides that, we have other places that we need to actually set up for people that don't drive very far, that could come to what's the word, to participate.
Hmm.
What was I? Oh. And there's two people that is on the LMT. It's Christina Hammer. Is that her name? Yeah. I haven't heard anything back from her.
Would she apply to be?
She applied to be a volunteer activist.
Okay.
What?
And what? And at one of them VAs.
Oh,
Okay. I don't see her name on there. Oh,
She's in process.
okay.
I went through
Okay.
the open in process because there's more people on the open and in process. If you just wanted the new ones, I can stop now.
Okay.
But let me finish. I got. Oh no, that's not. Wait a minute. That's George is still hanging around with Ricky Sasser, BCD, but that's it.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Cheryl, how about what's happening in your region?
Well, we have several activities coming up in April. We have a gun show, we have a parade, and of course, we have our monthly meeting, and Dr. Dan Stock's coming for that.
Okay. Good.
And then our meeting in May is scheduled for training on block walking. So,
Okay. Good. Now, have you
I don't
watched?
have anybody on the LMT?
No, I don't think you do. Do you have you watched the training video on the block walking?
Yeah, I've been watching them.
Okay, good. Good.
Yeah. I don't know that I've been through all of them. Maybe I have. I can't remember, but I'll go back through and look at. I have to watch them a couple times anyway. And like Dale, I've got all these new people that are district captains and like pulling teeth to get them to record what they're doing. And I don't want to keep bugging them like 24/7 or they're just going to stop.
Yeah.
So I'm going to see if maybe we can get together once a month or something and just work on the training or something to motivate them.
Yeah.
Because it's not, it's like they were all gung ho at the beginning and now it's just fizzled.
Okay. Well, that's always a challenge to get people involved. One of the things you guys might do now is pull out your phone and enter this meeting tonight in your activities. And if you do a Zoom call, you could, if you have trouble getting people to come out to a meeting, you could call a Zoom call and invite all the volunteer activists, or, use Jitsi and invite all the people who said they would be volunteer activists and see how many people will come on a Zoom call and talk about block walking. I watched really early on when they did a training on block walking, and I assume they've probably done some since then, but I think the idea of asking people to come out for, just a couple hours, that's helpful. That, we're not asking people to show up and be there all day. And then to go out and, in a small group where got a couple people knocking on doors on, each side of the same street. So people are relatively close together. Some things like that can be a good way to have it be not only reaching out to new people, but also kind of a team building thing. People get acquainted with other people who are involved and go to lunch before or afterwards, or, have coffee before, something like that, which just a good opportunity to connect people with each other. One of the things that I was watching some training that was done about a year ago, and one of the really key points that was brought up is that, it's not just us having a relationship with that district captain. It's getting that district captain or volunteer or anybody involved with multiple people. And it's really important so that it's not just, that person and they know you, but also they know the other district captains, which, is one of the things you achieve with having like a breakfast meeting. People get in a network where they're connected, not just to you as a region captain, but to other people around. And the more people they're connected with, the more likely they are to become activists and the more likely they are to continue, stay in the course. So, yeah, a Zoom meeting or meeting like this could be something else to try out while the weather is still a little chilly and undependable for doing block walking. George, do you have any things you want to bring up? Chat about training, things like that? Maybe George stepped away. You guys, I would urge you to keep on top of the training sheet, check that out. And if people are not making progress, then, we want to try to get in contact with them and see if we can give them some help, training, guidance, whatever they need to keep them moving forward in the training and, conducting activities, whether they come to a breakfast, participate in block walking, write a letter to their legislator or make a call to their state rep or state senator. All those things are important. And each thing they do kind of helps integrate them, not just to, the training, but to understand the full role, and that helps them then when they go to if they find a volunteer activist to say, here's how you do this. Make a call to your state legislator, or leave a message with their legislative assistant. George, did you have any things you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I think I'd like to mention again that Dale has tasked me with keeping track of educational events. Basically, that breaks down to any meeting, any kind of interaction that COS people have with other people, and talking to them, gun shows, meetings with legislators, anything that, basically any event. So if you can keep track and throw me a text or something in Slack or whatever, that would help a lot, because come the end of the month or so, that last few days is kind of a bitch. Trying to hunt down all the events, calling everybody like I did last month. And, and everybody's kind of like, well, I think there were 3 or 4. So you can keep track of that. And I'll keep track of it. If you can just, when you have an event come up or something like that, just throw me a text and I'll just take care of it from there. I'd appreciate it. Put you on my Christmas card list.
There you go. Another thing is encourage people to put things on the calendar. That way George can kind of take a look at the calendar and see what's been on there. And so educational event is kind of anything where we have contact with the public. Is that right, George?
Yeah.
So
the breakfast too that you guys have, those are considered an educational event too, because you're working with district captains and teaching them something about this, that, or the other, or whatever.
Okay.
It's a pretty broad category, actually.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for George?
Wouldn't most of those things, George, flow into the MEP if people were recording them?
Yeah, that's the bugaboo though, isn't it? If they were recording them.
Yeah. Yeah, because whenever, like last time, whenever you and I were talking, I didn't even consider the breakfast as one of those things. So
Educational event.
yeah. So
Okay.
I may have to expand my the way I'm looking at things, I guess.
Yeah, well, just anything, and then I'll take care of all the filtering and all that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Anything that you hear of, or any plans in the future or something. And my report is given up to the date, up to the state call. It's not the previous month; it's the current month, up to the day. So.
Yeah, the MEP is done, calendar month by calendar month, and it's reported on the next state call. So, like, you guys have a meeting coming up, the end of this week or something like that. Encourage people to go back and fill in everything they did for the month of March on the MEP, and that will help as we give that report on the state call. And I know there's a lot more going on than what gets on that MEP, but just encourage people, even if they, if they make calls to people that they find in the district dashboard that have signed up, make a call to somebody new, they can report that. They can, anything where they're reaching out to the public, they ought to be reporting those things. So anything else that you have questions or comments about?
Yeah, just one more medical thing, Gary. Kathy Lee, who's also a district captain, her husband is being fitted for a port to begin I guess on Saturday for chemotherapy to begin treatment for lymphoma.
Okay.
It's kind of an interesting situation because there are a number of people in their family that took the vaccine, and this is like the third case of lymphoma type thing that they've had within their family. And so, they took it for health reasons on the advice of their doctors because they already had this or that that had them kind of weakened, but they're kind of scratching their heads, kind of wondering.
Yeah.
I have, I get the emails that RW Robert Malone sends out every day, and there have been a lot of cancers triggered from these mRNA vaccines. And of course, it's hard to prove the causation, but people get the shot, and within weeks or sometimes months, they come up with cancer and stuff. It's a terrible situation. I hate to say it, but
That's criminal.
Ain't nobody gonna do anything about it, though.
Nobody has any informed consent, and it's a experimental drug,
yeah.
experimental gene therapy. It's criminal, is what it is.
I hope that at some point that this comes under close scrutiny, because it's just a terrible situation. I feel bad for people. I don't know about you guys. All three of my kids got vaccinated. They didn't have any other than pain in the arm kind of responses so far. Maybe sick for a day or two, but things could show up months or years from now. They're caused by that, and there's no way of knowing what may happen. So,
Do you think? Did you guys watch Battle Cry on Sunday?
I missed this one.
So, big push to get everybody involved in primaries. You think we ought to be doing something to encourage that? He was just talking about pick a candidate, make some phone calls for them, do something to help out. Get involved in the process.
Pushing the self-governance idea.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'm involved with a couple of campaigns here locally, the primaries, and if you just say the primaries, it could be Republican, it could be Democrat, but I think you could use the email blast system to say, encourage people to look at who's running, because the primary is coming up here in about 5 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. Must be 5.
May 3rd.
May 3rd. So that's like about 5 weeks from tomorrow, right? Or is it 4 weeks from tomorrow? Must be 5 weeks from tomorrow. I think I could count, but anyway, this is the time for people to get involved and find somebody they can do, candidate walking, knocking on doors. They can make phone calls. There's all kinds of things people can do. And if you get involved with a campaign for that person, for whatever office it may be, they will remember you, and that gives you the opportunity to have influence on them in the future.
But you got to do it as a private citizen. You can't do it as a COS person.
Right. Because it is a partisan election. You're either participating on, but that's what we're really asking people to do as private citizens, to get involved in those primary campaigns and find somebody in your locale that you think merits your support, and then be willing to support them.
Well, it was really odd. I don't know how many of you guys have participated in this last Telepatriot mission, and as a part of the written script this time, they actually recommended or asked people to consider a particular candidate by name, and basically asked people to vote for him. I actually got a hold of Marty and said, is this right? Because this doesn't seem like something we should do. And he went back to, was it Brenda, and said that there were some special stipulations because of the laws in South Carolina or whatever, and they went back and forth with their attorneys and decided they could make an exception for this one. It still seems odd to me.
Let me explain a little more about this. I don't have a lot of detailed knowledge, but normally COS, does not get involved in supporting a particular candidate in an election. But I think one of the things that's going on in South Carolina is there was a legislator who has session after session blocked our resolution from moving forward. And for that reason, they ultimately came to the conclusion that if we're going to get passed in South Carolina, that person, that roadblock's got to be moved out of the way. And so they were willing to say, in this case, this is advancing the COS cause. You know, we're not supporting this person because they are opposed to CRT or any other topic. It's because this person has been a particular roadblock to the COS resolution. And there may be some considerations in South Carolina law that allow us to do things there that we could not necessarily do in other states. Does that make sense?
It does, but with all the opposition we have that's going to be building against it, it still sounds kind of risky to me.
Yeah, it's probably not a strategy we would necessarily pursue in other states, but I think they felt like South Carolina maybe that, you know, on balance, it made sense to do that. I'm guessing we have a lot of other support to easily pass in that state if we move that roadblock out of the way. That's kind of my impression. I don't really have firsthand knowledge, but that's kind of my understanding and impression of what's going on in that particular situation. We really are being involved in something that we would not normally be involved in, and have typically avoided being involved in a particular race. But I think they felt like even bringing, you know, getting that person's constituents, dozens of them, maybe more, to call them and encourage them to support the COS resolution, and they just wouldn't do it. And so I think they finally came up, the only way around this person is to replace them in the legislature.
There's no, since there's no candidate involved, and I don't think it's really political, I suppose you could argue that it is, I'm encouraging everyone in my region to call their senator and representative, if they are of a mind, to ask them to override Governor Holcomb's veto of SB 1041, the transgender bill.
Right.
I don't see any conflict there, do you?
I don't think that's a problem because it is a specific piece of legislation. And if you did an email blast and there was a problem, they would let you know that they couldn't do that. But to my understanding, you know, we're asking for support or opposition for a piece of legislation, not for a candidate.
Right.
Supporting particular candidates where you run into problems. But as far as supporting or opposing particular legislation, I think you're okay on that one.
Well, if you keep your target audience under 500, you don't have to get anybody's approval.
Right.
So I do it at House District at a time.
Yeah.
And I've never
Good
had.
job, Larry. Way to go.
Do what?
We talked about that the other night. Nobody believed me.
What's that?
That if it was under 500, it didn't have to get reviewed.
Yeah.
Well, that's the way it's always worked for me. If I keep it under 500, I just throw out anything I want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as long as you certify that you're not supporting or opposing a candidate.
Right. And certify that's a required block anyway.
Yeah. Right. So.
Okay.
All right. Well, anything else?
Merry Christmas, everybody.
All right. I'm going to end this recording, and I will post this